Okay, my friends are now moving into our highlight section, which is angel hierarchy. So I'm going to start with a little excerpt that I picked up and I thought was so appropriate. Back in the day, Nicodemus, which was a Pharisee, as I was reading through, found out this information. He used to actually visit Jesus at night. Of course, he wouldn't want to visit him during the daytime because, you know, that would be such a contradiction. But anyway, so apparently, like, there was this tradition that they used to go and clean the temple and things like that. So Jesus would be in that area and he would actually seek him out and just go and talk with him and ask him questions. He actually was having a conversation with Jesus and Jesus told him, "If I already have told you earthly things and you do not believe, how shall you believe if I tell you of heavenly things?" You can find that in the book of John, chapter 3, verse 12. So here's Jesus trying to tell you, and the reason I share this is it's because we have so much science here and talking about different things and trying to kind of give us an explanation of, is there a God or are there angels? And I said, how appropriate for me to share this with you, so it's like, no matter what I may say, if you don't believe, it's of nothing, but those of you that do, I'm just preaching to the choir, right? But that's really interesting because it still goes on today, it's really hard to share something that you can't, supernatural things are really hard to say, well, here, I dug this up, because these are things that we know at a gut level, we know at a heart level, we know at a spirit level, and we are of spirit and we know this. Sometimes we are so... Thomas, is that Thomas, the one that used to say, well, I have to see it to believe it? So some of us have to show me. And fortunate that 85% of us on the planet believe in angels. So it's like, I know that I am already talking to a bunch of believers, so I'm not worried about that. So like I say, whatever I have, I will give you some references. Continue to research, go find these resources and just, build up on your knowledge and build up on what you believe and believe to be true. I wrote this other little thing because I didn't want to forget. Angels heal impurities, mental and physical. Angels pray on our behalf to God. Angels are warriors. Angels are messengers from God. Angels are teachers. And so isn't it interesting? So as above, so below. We see so many correspondences because here on earth, some of us are healers. And some of us are spiritual healers, and some of our doctors and nurses. So, look at these correspondences. As above, so below. Some of us are warriors, Some of us are, in the military. Some of us are police officers. Some of us are... So here on earth, we imitate that, We have people that are teachers, scholars, teachers. They share this message. We have people that are messengers. We have people that pray. Angels pray for us on behalf of God, and so... we do the same thing when we pray, So sometimes it's kind of humbling to pray for another person. So I just kind of want to share the correspondences. We're going to be talking about hierarchies and these correspondences, kind of bringing into you that as above, so below. So it's interesting that we here copy by some unknown way hierarchies, and we copy also the same things that angels are doing. We do it as humans, teachers, warriors, messengers, prayers, healers. We are doing it just the same. So this kind of gives you a different perception that these roles exist even in heaven. Let's start with some of the misconceptions about angels, that angels are strictly Christians. Well, they're not. The mythology of angels existed long before Judaism and long before Christianity. They were also major figures in Buddhism and Hinduism, as well as Celtic and Norse mythology. Many shamanistic legends also had similar figures, but not many of these were called angels. They were referred to as something else. Just like everyone doesn't refer to mantras as prayer, we have different words. Just all about, the words, the labels that we put on these things. Like Buddhists, for instance, used to refer to angels as devas or celestial beings. And some call them Dharma protectors. In Tibetan Buddhism, they're known as bodhisattvas or enlightened beings. So we all have different labels, probably to the same things. And what it comes down is, it's all semantics. Okay? So now let's go into some of the meat and potatoes of our discussion here. And what's really interesting, the next topic about the hierarchies and choirs. And it's interesting that they would use the word choirs, because when you look at the word choirs, even in a choir, there's different sound. You've got sopranos and altos and different, and each of that sound has a different vibration. And as we've had this conversation before, vibrations have different energies. So it's interesting that they would also refer to the hierarchy as choirs. Pretty cool. As with the rest of the universe, the angels exist in a hierarchy. And there's a form and order to the universe and in the divine forces. Pretty cool. The angel community is the perfect example of this order and structure. And the kingdom is divided into hierarchies, and each section of this community has its own purpose. So as you'll see, I think I even posted it when I wanted to send you a reminder that there's like these triads. This is one group, and then there's a second triad, a second group, and then there's another group. So we have, and it kind of reminds me to share with you, even like in the chakras, we talk about the 7 chakras, but those are not the only ones. If anybody does acupuncture or has had acupuncture, there are pinwheels in different areas of our body that, when touched, we can release that energy and rectify the energy field in that area. So it's pretty interesting, these different functions of the different choirs. So from a metaphysical perspective, the divine universe is structured into a very specific set of realms and subrealms to maintain control over the balance of energy. And remember, we talked about that. Even if you're operating at high energy, there must be balance so that it doesn't go overboard as they're opening up to new knowledge, new information. Does that make sense to you? It's not just, when we talk about energies and the balance, we've got here on this earthly plane, there is a constant battle of negative and positive energy, the yin and the yang, the dark and light. That actually, the way that the universe functions, it's in divine order. But we, the human element, many of us are not in tune to that subtlety of that energy working and forcing and working through it. So it kind of throws us off. The divine force knows that balance, so it moves with it. But when we're not in tune, we have a lot of obstacles allowing us to see this balance and maintaining that balance for ourselves, needless to say, for our own environment. And this control helps to ensure that all spirits have the ability to gain enlightenment and evolve. So I would like to repeat that, because as the angels are working through us and with us, let me repeat that. This control helps to ensure that all spirits have the ability to gain enlightenment and evolve. So as we are moving, we have this opportunity to enlighten and evolve. And remember, we of all have the free will to do that, or not. But once we choose, then they're working with us. And what's interesting, as I get into the different angels and the different hierarchies, we're going to talk about something that might wake up something that you didn't know. And you're going to say, that's an aha moment for me. Okay, so here we go. While there might be some differences in perspectives of these hierarchies, modern metaphysics and various religions hold a very similar definition of these angels. So it's really interesting that different religions and philosophies, there's this one similar theme throughout the whole thing. So why are these hierarchies needed? Think of it this way, and I want you to kind of see this kind of little story and metaphor here. The divine force is like a nuclear power plant, and you are a wonderfully constructed crystal chandelier. If you were to plug directly into the core of the power plant, you'd probably be overwhelmed with energy and you just might explode. Think about that. Think that analogy, okay? So for those of us who have not yet learned how to build our substation, to have this massive energy flow from the power plant and filter it so that it can go into all these little filaments, you just step forward to help us with that. So that's what that's like that, okay? So do you imagine? Think about that. This beautiful chandelier. We've got this mega power plant and you just plug in. But what happens is, as you use this angelic realm and this angelic intervention, it gets to get trickled in at the right energy, at the right amount for you to receive it. And it allows you to push through, to those areas of your life that you need that expansion. and to that particular light, because we have so many angels and so many angelic forces working with us, lighting up, like a Christmas tree, different areas of our chandelier, and there's lots of lights on that chandelier. So some people have learned through many lifetimes and through many spiritual lessons how to connect to that divine source. They know how to actually not be, being overwhelmed by the light as it's coming into them. So to be honest, these people that are enlightened are so few and far apart. So some of you have been around people that are enlightened, and you're like, I just want to be around that person because of this energy. And sometimes what I've shared in the past, it's like, imagine that you're oscillating at a certain vibration, and you come with a person that also is oscillating, but their vibration is even higher. And what happens, and I've seen this, people are drawn to them, and if you know anything about like oscillating energies, you can look that up too. You'll find out when there's an energy that's oscillating. Oh, here's a good example: a whirlpool. So there's the whirlpool, and the whirlpool is really strong at the core, and then as you move into that field, you begin to oscillate with it. But sometimes you get a distracting force, and it just kind of you wander off. Well, that's how being around people with high energy is. It's like, it's too much, I can't be around that person, but you can only take them by little bits, but that allows you those small for you to kind of meet with that energy, and it gives you a chance to kind of align a little bit as you begin to move with that energy too. So it is an awesome responsibility, and it takes a great deal of commitment between the individuals and soul and divine source and the divine forces to continue expanding the light. Sometimes some people that are light bearers feel that it's a big burden and they struggle a lot, but some, say, hey, I welcome it, and they're like those warrior angels, you could see them, just, out there battling, and they don't speak of that, but they're out there, and their pain is just the same. They still struggle with the mundane issues, but they move forward. Some people struggle a lot with that, but they're still light bearers and very sensitive. They still do their job, but it's a commitment that you choose when you decide to do that, and I respect and admire that for those of us and those of you that do that. So those people that have not selected that job in this lifetime, the angels usually will step forward and assist with their communication. I just want to go into the next step, just a couple terminologies that you will hear me. One is going to be heavenly host. And when you hear that, and in the future when you hear that, usually a host is not just one. It actually refers to the army of angels. So it's not legions, it's like an army. So when the heavenly host is there, it's like an army of angels coming there to do, whatever intervention is needed. So that's really beautiful. And you might hear another one, the choir of angels, or the 9 choir of angels that we're going to talk about. Those are the different ranks of angels. One thing that I wanted to bring up is that throughout much of the literature that I found was Archangel Michael was revered as the greatest of all the angels, especially in Christianity. And he's known as the heavenly host. So when we heard about the word host, we refer to it as army. So imagine him as the leader of the heavenly host. And so it's not just, one is the army of angels. So never doubt they're not just little beautiful beings, these things are powerful and amazing. The angelic hosts are a separate order of created beings. They're entirely different from the material order of mortal creatures, and they function as a distinct group of universe intelligences. So when you start thinking, and this is another information that I need to share with you, because sometimes you or we perceive angels as something that tangibly we can see. But think about this word here. They are a group of universe intelligence. So then you say, well, intelligence is not something you can touch, but yet you can feel and understand your own intelligence, and you try to look for it. But so can you imagine now that definition? It's out here, intelligence of a way of out here. So it's really intense what we're referring to. So I wanted to share that. Okay, or the 9 orders or choirs of angels in the hierarchy are divided into the 3 hierarchies, and each of which is divided into orders: the highest, the intermediate, and the lower. And each section of the community has its own purpose and energy. So we're going to go into that. But Dionysius was a Christian theologian and a philosopher of the 5th and early 6th century, and he wrote a document called the Celestial Hierarchy. And also the other comes from the Summa Theologica, and that was written by Thomas Aquinas. And Thomas Aquinas was very respected among his peers, and he was a theologian. He drew most of the passages from the New Testament. That's kind of where he kind of developed he was able to put the hierarchies in order. So this is coming from that time era, and somebody actually, took the time to say, well, in Summa Theologica, that's where you're really going to get the whole descriptions and the whole subdivisions, and it gets a little weird in there, but that's okay. Through these writings, it has been expressed that there exist angels and the angel order, and has been expressed that these angels have specific jobs and they have various tasks which they are commanded by God. So that's where most of this explanation comes from. There are people in our modern time that have had experiences with angelic realms, and I think I've shared with you from like Swedenborg. I think he's from the 1890s, from that era. That's kind of recent, and he's had this experience. So you have some stuff not so recent, and then some pretty ancient stuff. So many of our ancient sacred texts will also have these references. So anyway, we're going to go into the first sphere, and we're going to go from the order of the center of source, and then we're going to go down to reaching the humans. So the first sphere serve as the heavenly counselors. And the heavenly counselors, they're the seraphims. And the seraphims, they actually surround the divine throne. And they're mentioned in Isaiah. If you want to have a Bible reference, they're mentioned in Isaiah. And they're the highest angelic forms, and they're the caretakers of God and the throne. And they're constantly, shouting out their praises and singing their praises. As I mentioned to you before, when I had my near-death experience, now I know that that's where I was pretty much closest to. I cannot tell you that I could feel that I was at the presence of God, but I can tell you that there is one big intervention before that you could have that experience. So I don't know if there's. What I can tell you is that there is one out there. A very powerful angelic guard there, but you could still, being in that presence, I was receiving an incredible inundation of God's love that permeated every part of my being, and I could hear the angelic choirs, and it was just so beautiful, and it was singing God's praise, and in words that I cannot give to you or explain, and in sounds that I can never ever possibly replicate for you. But if it was the language of love, which I'm receiving here, that's what I was receiving then, and that's what I experienced. And I could tell you with my own experience that there is this essence up there or here or where it is, but it's this place that has it, and there is a choir of angels constantly singing God's praise, so I believe that was what I experienced, this protection at the throne of God. The next one is the cherubim. So that's within the first sphere comes the cherubims. And one of the things that I've learned in modern English usage, this has been blurred with the distinction between the little cherubims that are wingtips that we kind of see in most of our art. And that's actually, there's a word for that type of little angel that we see. Those are called putties, and it's spelled P-U-T-T-I. And that's what they refer to as paintings. But cherubims on the first sphere, they have 4 faces, one of man, one of an ox, a lion, and an eagle. And they're all conjoined by wings with eyes all around them. And the lion's body, they have like these ox feet. They guard the throne of God, and they are the spirits of harmony and are often referred to as the angels of air. So every now and then, when you feel that amazing gust, and there's like a certain energy to it, I've had that experience, you are being enveloped with that intelligence of the cherubims. I mean, that whole thing. So I'm sure that some of you have had that experience, because I can't be the only one that have had that. And there's a particular look, feel, and scent and smell to this envelopment of that. So if you've ever had that, that's what you're feeling, the envelopment of cherubims around you. And there is reference to this. If you wanted to have a Bible reference, you will get this on Genesis chapter 3, Chronicles chapter 3, verse 7, Ezekiel chapter 10, Kings chapter 6, and Revelation chapter 4. So if you wanted to see, ancient texts, speaking about cherubims, you can refer to it there. And again, like I told you, Thomas Aquinas took his time to go through and pull these out. The next section and the last one from the first sphere are the thrones. And some people refer to these as elders. And they're mentioned in the New Testament in Colossians chapter 1. So you can catch that there. They are living symbols of God's justice and authority. And so sometimes when you are feeling like there's injustices happen, you can just call on the thrones to just say, I would love to see God's justice, which allows me now to move into this next area that I didn't want to forget, which I'm being told to bring up to you. It's communicating with angels, because sometimes we will communicate with our guardian angels, we will communicate with the archangels. But could you imagine if you really want to pinpoint something that you need done and you begin to awaken to this knowledge of angels? It's like sending a carpenter to fix your plumbing. Not that they won't help you, but if you want, it's like, okay, well, they might not bring the right tools. So you'll be getting all this intervention and you're like, oh, this is good, but are you getting angelic help? But if you really want, like I said, these are your specialists. So call on the specialists for the specific jobs you want done. Like when we did our circle, I wanted certain things. So make sure that I get the angels to come in and do what we need right now for this circle. So if you want divine justice, God's justice to be done, and something that you feel you're not getting done, and it's an injustice, you ask God's justice to be done and call the thrones to come in and intervene. Their mission is to bring judgment for individual, and listen to this, karma, and society as a whole. Because we do, as a nation, different nations, we do certain things as a collective that create karma for us, that we need to work through these things. So really important to understand that too. So they're also depicted as record keepers of the universal laws. So if you would like more knowledge of these universal laws and experience this is who you'd call. You would ask the thrones to come in and help you with this, so that you can have a better experience of understanding your role in the universe as well. They may know better about your karma than you do. So if you're trying to resolve karmic issues, and if any one of you have had emotional healing sessions with me, you will understand that some of the stuff that you may carry may not belong to you, but may be coming down through the karmic of your tree that you bringing from either the womb, your family, or previous. So it's really important to work with the thrones and help. The image is of pinwheels, and they're like a wheel within a wheel, and they have. Let's move into the second sphere, triad. They're the heavenly governors. So, which is different from counselors. Governors, imagine someone governing and just making sure that they're getting done. That's what the next sphere is. The dominions, and in some are called it's dominions or lordships. The dominions regulate the duties of lower angels. So you wonder, so you see that order even in the angelic realm. So everybody's really busy, So they're the spirits of wisdom and knowledge. These are the angels who bring you the teachings and intuition. So, but not just the teachings, but it's teachings of intuition. That anytime that you want to wake up to intuition, you are given very big lessons to trust yourself. So, and these are hard lessons, because it's like, oh, you begin to, it's those things of awakening and the really hard lessons, but these are the ones in charge of that, the dominions, and they inhabit the essence of Jupiter. So sometimes we've got, these celestial bodies where sending energy to the planet for us, So they represent superior power of wisdom against physical strength and intellectual, egotistical forces. So sometimes when you have this thing, it's about me, and it's always me, or I, it pushes you into kind of humbling you. So really humbling, these angels. You might get into situations that challenge you and challenge who you think you represent. So it's really intense. If you are worried about what's happening on our planet and the different things in the world, you might definitely pray and ask for intervention from the dominions, okay? Okay, virtues is the next section here in the second sphere. So the virtues are also called strongholds. Their primary duty is to supervise the movements of the heavenly bodies. They're in order to ensure that the cosmos remains in order. So think about this. There are angels out there actually presiding over everything, the heavenly bodies, and making sure that everything is... think about all the stuff that science has discovered, that we're not just one galaxy. So, could you imagine? If you've ever wondered, the ascension levels, there's a lot of jobs out there. Angels are really busy. They also are the choir of choice, and they watch over the centers of free will and provide us with tools that we need along our path to make the choices to learn our spiritual lessons. So these are the angels that we would call upon to help us with our spiritual lessons and to help overcome karmic debt. So we're working with two sets of, choirs with us. They work with the thrones to bestow us that grace and rewards on those who have overcome the deeds here on earth. So really powerful. They're often thought as the angels who possess supreme courage. Because you know what? It takes courage, to ask for that courage to go through these karmic lessons. Let me tell you, anyone that's going through karmic lessons, myself included, it is really humbling. Some of the stuff, you wake up and you don't know what it is that you have to do, but you just have to say, please give me the courage to move through what I need to do. But anyway, if you want to find a reference in the Bible about these particular beings, go to Ephesians chapter 1, verse 21. You can find that there. The next one in this second group, the last order here, are the powers. And the powers are bearers of conscience and the keepers of history. They're also the warrior angels created to be completely loyal to God. And they're the angels of form and space. It's really beautiful. They're often associated with the essence of the sun. So every now and then when you're sitting out there outside, and you feel this particular warm rays overcome you, because we all get sunshine, but when you're out there and you feel this warm rays of sun, a particular kind that those are the powers that are filling you and giving you this essence in you. So it's really beautiful. They bring the power of intellect into such matters as math, geometry, astronomy. They bring in that intellect, so it's like this kind of clarity of this knowledge, that we need. There are also many educators that are bringing that true knowledge, receive this guidance from the powers. They're guardians of the heavenly pathways and impose will of God without fear or mercy. So sometimes when things are going down in that way, it's you can't realize it's just it's the without fear or mercy. It's just it's God's working through the powers to make these things come true. So they're often seen when they're depicted with these flames, flaming swords, and they're there. I know that some of us picture Archangel Michael as there to depict, but remember, he is revered as the strongest, more powerful. But the powers, if you can imagine, when these hosts come, they're coming behind wherever you usher them. And here's I'm getting this information that I need to share so you can have this visual. When you ask for them, these powers come in with host, an army of angels with flaming swords to defeat evils, if you want to call it devils, whatever, but evils. Evils are our fears, our doubts, these things that impede our light. So as you command these, have that visual, okay? And they're going to burn it up. So flames are not demonic things, when you think about that. Be careful, because that flame of God is amazing. Okay, thank you so much for hanging in there with me. The third sphere are the ones who function as messengers, as the heavenly messengers and soldiers for us. So are the principalities, or some people might call them as rulers. And their duty is to carry out the orders given to them by the dominions and bequeath blessings to the material world. So if you want these blessings, and sometimes it's, I want a blessing, but understand now where it's coming from. There's a whole realm working, manifesting God's blessings and sending it through the principalities. So you may want to just kind of connect with that and understand, well, the principalities are working with me here to bestow these blessings here to the material world. And so they oversee groups of people. So when you see groups coming together, that's who's coming through. And they're educators, and they're guardians of the realm of earth. So they're also related to the germinal ideas, like when you're getting inspiration, they are the ones that help this manifest on earth. So, you're receiving a blessing, you're getting ideas, that's where it's coming from. That's the channel that's opening up through the principalities. Is that pretty cool, right? So anyone that's related with the arts and science and music, because remember I told you anything that has to do with numbers has frequency, so they're working a lot with those beings. But you can call them whenever you're getting an idea. That's what's intervening. Those are the angels, the principalities. Okay, now we'll get to the most common ones that we are used to, are the archangels. And the archangels rule over the universe the universe's daily operation while also delivering messages from God. So to us humans. So the word archangel comes from the Greek meaning chief angel. And just kind of wanted to share this with you. Only archangels Gabriel and Michael are mentioned in the New Testament. The name of Archangel Raphael appears only in the book of Tobias, and the Archangel Uriel literally means light of God and only mentioned in the Lutheran Bible. So just kind of found that information for you. So anyway, real quick, and we're going to close it out. The first archangel created by Michael, and it's like, who is like God? And ask for Archangel Michael's for protection. And that's what he's representing: courage, strength, truth, and integrity. He protects us from physical, emotional, and psychic attacks. Michael carries a flaming sword, and he uses it to cut our etheric cords and protect us from negative entities. So it's really, when you're feeling that, or you feel that heavy energy, ask Archangel Michael to come through for you. Archangel Raphael, healing power of God. That's his meaning. And in Hebrew, the word Rapha means doctor or healer. And he assists with all forms of healing, humans and animals. And he helps to rapidly heal mind, body, and spirit. If you call on it, you can, if you're a healer, can call on Archangel Michael to heal someone else. But he can't interfere if that person doesn't want that help, or you can't force their free will. But if they're open to that spiritual healing, it will come through. Archangel Gabriel means strength of God. He's also known as the angel of messenger, always seen as referred to as a she angel, but you know, that's here or there, because my experience when I had in my near death, I couldn't feel gender as much. But anyway, it's the angel of communication and helps us overcome fear and procrastination. Archangel Uriel means God is light and is considered one of the wisest archangels because it's the angel of intellectual formation. So pretty much these creative ideas come through and helps us manifest these into the earth plane here. So the last and final on this last tier is the angels, and it's the final choir. And many people think it's the least important, but it's not. They're all equally important. We're part of a whole. They are the messenger angels who also govern the spirit of nature, the guardians over humanity. And they deal with the nitty-gritty of everyday life, and they act as the direct gateway for information, knowledge, communication between humans and the God source. So while we have specifics, this is what they do. This choir consists of billions of entities. For every incarnated person and being on this planet, there is a corresponding guardian angel to help them guide through this incarnation. So lots of angels around us, and there are many different kinds with many different functions. The angels are sent as messengers to mankind. So I do have some references I want to share with you. Let's see. First of all, the Bible. Everyone may have one or in your home. Other reference that I do have books. I do keep a little library. So the other one is the Kabbalah. Probably a lot of the Jewish people are familiar with this one. The other Kabbalah is kind of pretty much the Kabbalah. The Miracles of Archangel Michael by Doreen Virtue. Beautiful book. Since Michael is one of the revered angels, the most powerful of the army of hosts. Is pretty great. Let me give you some internet references. Again, Thomas Aquinas, Summa Logica. We're going back into ancient writings. And there's this website called www.universalOnehealing.com, and that actually goes through angel hierarchy. So these are the references, and I want to thank everyone for joining on this session. Thank you for sharing the videos. Thank you for being with the angels and with me.